You ever hear this one? Judge not. You'd be talking to somebody, well, judge not. Don't be, you're not supposed to judge. You're a believer. You're a Christian. Don't. Okay. I've noticed something interesting, especially among non-believers. They might not know too many verses in the Bible, but they certainly all seem to know that one, and they certainly don't mind quoting it. Even though they're not into the Bible, that one they will quote in a minute, okay? Even that one's distorted to use it out of context like that. It gets repeated, quite honestly, it gets repeated so much that even believers start thinking that that's what it says. It's actually not what it says. That's a couple words out of the middle of a sentence, okay? But if you think that's what it says, it's going to mess up your thinking. So let's look at what it really says. Yeshua speaking, he says, judge not that you may not be judged. For with whatever judgment you judge, you shall be judged. And for whatever measure you measure out, it will be measured to you in return. So the point of this is not that you judge not, be aware. Here's the point. The Master's teaching is like, if you do judge, you're going to be judged. And however you judge is how you're going to be judged. So it's okay to judge, but be very careful how you judge. It better be righteous judgment, and you better be willing to stand up to the same bar that you've set. Because what we're really doing, and really if you think about this, this is way more critical what it actually says than judge not. The whole portion's about judging. We have to judge. He sets these things before us. We have to rule. We have to decide. He's ruled. We have to decide based on his ruling how to apply it. So, we might all come to something with some kind of predetermined prejudice about what the outcome should be, but, he's given us the answers, and so he's telling us, like, put your thinking aside and be real careful when we go to judge. I have right rulings. I've already told you what they are, okay? And by the way, when you set the bar for this person, you're setting the bar for yourself. Okay, so that's pretty powerful. And so he gives us an example right here. He said, why do you look at the splinter that's in your brother's eye and don't consider the stick that's in your own eye? Okay? Or how will you say to your brother, here, let me pull the splinter out of your eye, and behold, there's a board in your own eye? We wouldn't do that, would we? He's like, hypocrite, first cast the board out of your own eye, and then you'll see clearly to cast the splinter out of your brother's eye. I noticed something here I really hadn't noticed before. Look what it says. And I looked up in a bunch of translations, looked at the Greek behind it and everything. This is actually what it says. Cast out the board. What's that? There's kind of a spiritual connotation there, isn't there? Okay. Many modern versions, and I went all the way back to the 1560 Geneva. And it says, here it is, okay? To eject, look at it. This is Strong's definition. To eject, literally or figuratively, to bring forth, to cast out, to drive out, to expel. What does that sound like? That doesn't sound like you're pulling a stick out of your eye. That sounds like there's a spiritual problem. Yeah. And that's usually the problem. It usually is something spiritual. So is it possible that the reason we have problems judging righteously is because there's some junk dwelling in us? Is that what he's really talking about? That needs casting out before we can see. Think about it. If we've got junk dwelling in our trunk, it's going to make it hard to see spiritually. We're not going to have clear vision. And so that's really what he's teaching us here. It's not so much about our judging. It's to check ourselves and see, really judge ourselves, okay, before we even think about judging somebody else. Yeah. And the problem is if we got a bunch of junk in the trunk, beam in your eye, in his words, we can't see clearly enough how to judge it righteously because we're listening to the enemy. We're listening to the garbage. We're listening to the junk in the trunk instead of being able to see forward with clear spiritual eyes. So we have to clean that. We have to cast that out before we're able to do that. And so once we do that, reality is we're probably not even going to worry about judging others. We're probably going to turn around and we'll be helping them instead of judging them. Amen? And I think that's what the Master's goal is here. Thought that was interesting.